So Jeff Hurst, the Trevor Brooking and Billy Bonds, Paolo Di Canio, West Ham United. We celebrate our victories, we stick together in defeat. Proud of our history, West Ham United, more than just a podcast. More than just a podcast.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to More Than Just a Podcast. I've just chucked my phone away. Sorry about that. Welcome, people, to this new series. A week on from our old series, it seems, of More Than Just a Podcast. I believe it's series 14, episode 1. Sean likes me to do the work properly, but to be fair, I've just guessed at that because I don't keep a record. Anyway, tonight, luckily for you people, the old stooge boy is sunning himself in Spain. So while it may be darker over here, it means the sun shines longer over here. But joining tonight, you've already heard the dulcet tones of Mr. John Bucci. Hello, John. Where are you?
Good evening. I'm at home speaking to yous.
That's good. I keep forgetting to do all the proper words. And then there's no Canning Town Lent tonight. No Sean. So I needed someone really that could replace Sean. So we needed someone that was a bit Marmite. Some hate him, some love him. So tonight,
what a privilege there.
It's standing. There could only be one, really. It's Mr. Iain Dale. Good welcome, Iain.
Well, thanks for that really lovely welcome, Nigel.
There you go.
I mean, does anyone hate me, really?
I did. Well, read your Twitter feed, Iain. I'm sure.
Yeah, I know.
They're queuing up, mate. They're queuing up.
Right.
Well, the good news is the season starts or started, so all the phony predictions and everything have been done. We actually got to see the Lopetegui era start in a way, and we were all at the game. So let's start with John first before we bring the guest in. John, at the game, how did your day go? What did you think?
We had a nice day. Yeah, because it was the later kick-off. George came.
Who?
So George,
George,
you know, my son George.
Oh, blimey, yeah, I forgot about your son, George.
So, yeah, he came, which was nice for me. Yeah, we had made a day of it. We went to the Devonshire in Piccadilly Circus for the best pint of Guinness in London to start off with, and then made our way over there and got into the football, and then the football started. And, yeah, I mean, I thought it was all right, the atmosphere in there. I thought everyone seemed quite positive and it seemed quite lively. And the game, well, it was a bit of, I don't know, it was up and down, wasn't it? It was a real mixture of half decent and the same old, you know.
Well, the lineup at first. A lot of people, obviously, with a lot of new signings, a lot of people were looking at it and predicting, you know, all these new signings. But he basically went with Areola, Kufal, Mavropanos, Emerson, Souček, Bowen, Paquetá, Kudus and Antonio. So the only new signings were starting were Kilman and Rodriguez. Yeah. And I'm guessing Rodriguez only started because Alvarez was injured. So, yeah, bit of a surprise there for you, or?
Well, I don't know. I mean, it seems to be this, you know, I don't know how ruthless managers are or not. They seem to come in and feel like, you know, you're the ones holding that position. Go and keep your position and make it your position, sort of thing. Is that maybe that's the mindset? But I think us as fans, I mean, I would have liked to have seen. I know. I think I would like to have seen Fulkrug start for sure. Rodriguez. George said something about Rodriguez afterwards. He looked like a player that you see it quite often where they come from abroad and play in the Premier League, and you can see they're for a while they're like a pace off of the speed of the game. Mm-hmm. but he seemed like he was sort of off it. You can see he's got something about him, but he wasn't. The pace of it all going on around him seemed to sort of bamboozle him a bit. I mean, Kilman I thought looked all right. But yeah, I think I would have liked to have seen maybe one or two more of the new signings in the starting lineup. But who knows? I mean, for us as well, Lopetegui is a new thing for us as well, isn't he? We don't know how to read him.
No.
When we're likely to see substitutions, how he's going to make. To me, it looked like he took off the creativity and then put Fulkrug on. So I don't know. It's all just a learning curve for everyone, isn't it? Really.
Yeah. Iain, what did you think of the starting lineup? Where do you sit with the Lopetegui era, and what are your hopes really?
Well, there was at one point during the match where I said to Adrian, the guy I sit next to, I said, "Is David Moyes still in the building?" Because it just seemed there were so many bits of the match where we were just doing what we did last season. However, there were other bits where you thought, actually, this is good football. When they took the pace up, particularly after Paqueta scored the penalty, there was about 10 minutes there where you really saw something where you thought, well, this could be good if they continue like this. And in the second half, they did for a time, but it was a game where you had sort of 20 minutes off, 10 minutes on, and it was just a bit of a mixture. Now, I completely understand why he didn't introduce too many of the substitutions in the new signings in the starting lineup, because I think if you introduced 4 or 5 of them all at once, I think that's quite difficult to get a team working together. So I think doing it gradually is probably the right thing. I thought Rodriguez had a fairly decent game, actually. Yes, there were periods when he was a little bit off the pace, but you could see that he's a really decent player. Kilman, I thought, was one of the best players on the pitch for most of the game. I was disappointed that Todibo, was it Todibo? I don't know. I'd have liked to have seen him start. And when he came on, I thought he looked really, really sharp. And I suspect he will be in for the Palace game. Somerville again looked very, very sharp when he came on, because Bowen really hadn't done anything during the course of the game so far as I could see, and he just seemed to sort of hit the ground running. Fulkrug didn't really do an awful lot. I think people have been a bit unkind about Antonio. Yes, he didn't score. He had a couple of opportunities, had a couple of runs. His first touch wasn't brilliant for a lot of the game, but people seem to think on the basis of one game, we should sell him now. Well, I don't necessarily buy into that, because I think as an impact sub, he's probably, that's going to be, if he stays at the club, that will be his role. But to give, he was given the opportunity to make an impact in that game, didn't really take it, but that's not to say that he might not in the future.
Yeah, 3 minutes in, it's not the best start, realistically, that Lopetegui wouldn't have wanted. It's hard to gauge when it's that early, but when you look at the recent, or if you look at the games that Lopetegui's had in pre-season, apart from against Dagenham and Redbridge, which probably you would have to discount, every other team he played, we conceded at least 2 goals.
Yeah.
So the problem there is probably in defence. And with the first goal, how did you see it? You were actually nearer to that goal than the two of us. How did you see it?
Well, I wasn't that near. I was basically sort of the other side of the halfway line, so it was actually quite difficult.
Still nearer,
Larry.
Yeah, still nearer.
But it was quite difficult to see exactly what happened. And I haven't really seen in the match reports. Was there anyone to actually blame for it? Was it just one of those unfortunate goals that just happened to go in?
Have you seen it back, John?
Yeah, I think Ariola's getting some grief about it. Really.
Yeah.
And it was an Onana, happened to be Onana.
Yeah, and who's a really decent player. I wish we had bought him when we could have done. Areola made some very good saves in that game, but there were a couple of occasions. One where he came out to the edge of his area, didn't get the ball, and Villa should have scored, but didn't. And you think, well, Fabianski wouldn't have done that. And I'm not saying that Fabianski should replace Areola, but there were too many incidents in that game where Areola didn't quite look himself.
Yeah, I mean, I've looked back at the goal, and obviously goalkeepers union. It sort of reminded me of me. I used to be, but then again,
Yeah.
I was 5'10" playing in goal, so that's why I was rooted to my line, because I wasn't out jumping. You know, he's 6'6". The ball's, you know, you're told to command your 6-yard area, and it was played into the front post, so you would expect him to be able to deal with it if need be. In his defence, he had Souček in front of him who wandered out of the area. When I say wandered, that's a bit harsh. He was covering a player. He got dragged across. Of course, Onana runs from the back and leaves Antonio for dead. Antonio just lets him run off of him. And, you know, I think Onana's 6'5". So he's going to be a threat. And he proved it. And, you know, 3 minutes in, you think, oh, here we go. But I mean, John, did you feel though once we, after about the first 15 minutes, we got established in the game?
Yeah, I mean, I did think, oh, look, here we go. That's just, you know, because there's a level of optimism despite all the other crap that's going on around the concessions and all that. The signings on paper have been really good. The pre-season stuff, the way they've got the players in and things. They've got some decent players come in, and I think there's a level of optimism going into the game. But it's typical West Ham to let a goal in on the 3rd or 4th minute. Yeah, but we did feel. I did feel like we got back into the game. We did, you know, and you know when we got the penalty, whether it was a penalty or not. There was a point sort of not long after that where it looked to me like everyone was just happy with the draw. I sort of felt, you know, that'd do us. I'll take the draw now, you know.
Yeah.
But you know, it was, you know, it wasn't terrible, was it? It was. There is. I mean, I agree with Ian when he said about when Todibo came on, and he had a level of calmness about him, the way he sort of strolled around the pitch. I mean, you can see that, you know, we've got the potential there, and I think, you know, yeah, let's not over stress about it. I think, you know, we didn't look like we were going to get absolutely slaughtered. We looked like we were always in it, and you know, we carried a threat. So I was not overly concerned, Nigel, over that.
I mean, you talk about the penalty, so. I don't know. I doubt if Ian's just watched the game, he probably's not seen. This is how it was described to me by Barry Meikle, a listener to the show, who now writes for 6'2". We can promote your website later, Ian. He says he does a VAR rundown for the decisions during the game, and basically what he said was, "Thank you, yes." He says 35th minute. He says, I've seen some say that West Ham were fortunate as there was contact on the ball by Cash. So Cash played the ball before he tangled with Souček. But he says the argument doesn't stand up with scrutiny. He's getting the ball is irrelevant whether the foul has occurred or not. So basically what he's saying is the ball was played, but the follow-through sort of scissored Souček. Souček stood there waiting for the contact, which itself is not wrong. So therefore, it had to be a straightforward penalty. Now, VAR, because the penalty was given, goes with referee's decision. If the penalty wasn't given, we believe that the penalty would not then have been awarded. So I don't know if there's going to be a lot of this season with VAR, where the on-field decision is going to be adhered to.
I think that is going to happen. I mean, the penalty was actually not. I mean, that was directly in front of where I sit. So, and my first comment to Adrian was, "That's a soft one," because I mean, yes, Souček did go down. In fact, it's virtually his only contribution to the game, but I didn't expect it to be given. And I think last season it would have been overturned. And this is where I think there's going to be some weird VAR decisions this season, because they're clearly...
There was some last season.
Well, there was a lot last season. And this is the trouble, in that if you don't know what to expect, you lose all respect for the whole system. And I mean, VAR, I'm not a fan of it, but it does have something to be said for it, but it's got to be applied properly. It wasn't last season. Now, I watched some of the other games over the weekend, and there were one or two other incidents in other games where you thought, well, that would have been different last season. So, but I guess once people get used to the different way that they're doing it, well, we'll either like it or we won't. And now it advantaged us for once in that game, but no doubt there'll be other occasions when it doesn't.
But I mean, in regards to VA, is it not the case though then that it was so wrong last season that while there will be confusion this season now because it's going to be different from last season, it will be more of a positive than a negative?
Well, it could be. I hope it is, because we really don't want to go through what we all went through last season. I mean, to me, I think, Nigel, you probably agree with this, to me it takes a lot of the enjoyment out of watching the game, because whenever a goal goes in, you're up on your feet cheering, and then you think, oh, should I be cheering, because is it going to be ruled out? And so the moment goes. Now, you can then argue, yeah, but if it's given, then you can cheer again, and it makes it even more enjoyable. Well, up to a point, but it makes it a very different game. And there was a point last season, I think we'd had several decisions go against us in successive matches, where I did think to myself, shall I just give up watching West Ham and go and watch Gillingham each Saturday? It might be more enjoyable.
I doubt it.
Well, possibly not, but you know what I mean.
Yeah,
I
do.
You go and see a lower league team, and it's football as it used to be.
Yes.
And I'm all in favour of progress. You can't stand still, and I know you and I disagree on some of the things that have happened at West Ham over the last few years, but if you take enjoyment out of watching it for the supporters, in the end, they will react to that. And I mean, it felt a bit like last season. The last time I felt like that was when Allardyce was manager, and I thought, why am I coming to watch this every week? I'm not enjoying it. And in the end, you're thinking, well, you're paying a lot of money to go and see it, and for something you don't enjoy. And in the end, you make a logical decision, and you then stop going. And if too many people do that, that is a slippery slope.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I know everybody. I'm sure everybody that listens, unless you're a new listener, welcome, knows my feelings on VAR. I'd scrap it.
The trouble is, you can't uninvent it.
You can.
I agree with you. If I had a choice, I would scrap it.
Yeah.
But it's a bit like nuclear weapons. You can't uninvent them.
I disagree. I think you can. It's, if it's not being used in the lower leagues, then the Premier League could easily go, no, we're not going to use it anymore. I think the problem is with these things, it's the business behind it, and it's the money involved in that business behind it. That there is a business now in VAR, and that business needs to operate. And that if the Premier League said, right, no VAR, that business has got a problem.
But then the other side of that is the business of the Premier League. If there's clear and obvious things that aren't picked up by referees, but if VAR was there and you got rid of it, it is kind of, now it's in.
And did you know, I learnt this on the Price of Football podcast the other day, that the clubs have to pay for VAR to be installed, and they pay for the maintenance of it, but they don't own it. The FA still owns it.
Yeah.
Which seems ridiculous, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, and there is one. I mean, in picking up what John said about if you scrapped it, there could be a decision. And this may have altered the course of history because it's to do with Everton. And there was a famous game between Everton and Bolton.
Yeah.
And Bolton thought they'd scored a goal,
the ghost goal, wasn't it?
Yeah, and they deemed it not to have crossed the line, and then computers proved that the ball had crossed the line, or TV screens showed that the ball had definitely crossed the line. I believe either the game was drawn or Everton won it, and basically, if you'd have took the 2 points off of Everton and gave a point to Bolton that season, Bolton would have stayed up and Everton would have gone down. Bearing in mind Everton's never been relegated since, I think, the 50s. Imagine...
It's not looking good this
No,
year.
it's not. No, it's not. But imagine, so it's, and people can always point to those things as why we should have VAR. There's a famous goal at the London Stadium, if we bring it up to date, where James Milner was at least 3 yards offside, standing in front of the linesman when he received the ball for him to cross it. Yeah, and that always gets dragged up. My argument is that that's what it should be for, not for when the bloke's armpit is offside.
Yeah.
Yeah, it should be that major mistakes. But then, like, say, I mean, on Saturday, bring it back to that, when we were awarded the penalty, I was just sat there, well, we'll see, eh?
Yeah. No,
beforehand, the
Yeah.
ref would put a point at the penalty spot, you'd go, yeah,
you know
penalty.
it's given. Yeah.
Yeah, but now it's just like penalty, and you said, oh, right, okay, we'll see. It has taken that away, hasn't it? You can't deny it.
So we went in at a break, drawing 1-1. We come out in the second half. I mean, quickly, I'll just say, I thought actually we would have brought a team once we came out for the second half. And for me, it all hinged on substitutions. What do you think, Ian, on that?
Well, it did from the point of view that Duran came on and scored the winner for Villa.
And Villa fans were singing, you should have started Duran.
I mean, look, he was somebody, until all this speculation happened, that I'd never heard of. And you look at his figures and you think, well, how on earth can he be priced at £40 million? But then again, I think he scored 5 goals and he's only had very few starts, but he's come on as a substitute quite often. And he did look, I mean, forget the goal, he looked quite useful just in the general play, didn't he? Now, I suspect that he's not, I think he's gone. I don't think we're going to sign him. I mean, I'm sure we'll come on to talk about transfers in a minute. But I'd see very little prospect of that being resurrected. Do I think it should be? You can't just judge it on the basis of that one goal. But he does look quite a good player. In terms of our substitutions, I mean, he did use 5 substitutes, which Moyes very rarely ever did.
He did.
Was that necessarily a good thing? Maybe it was too many. It was
Well,
3 and 2, wasn't it?
He's brought on 3 subs in Full, Krug, Somerville and Ward-Prowse, taking off Antonio, Bowen and Paquetá. That was on the 74th minute. Now, they scored, was it in the 78th minute?
Yeah. I don't think you could necessarily attribute it to that. I mean, I think that's more coincidence than anything. But I did think it was odd to take off Paquetá. I thought it was slightly odd to take off Bowen, particularly as he's just been made captain. I mean, admittedly, he hadn't done much in the game at all. I completely concede that.
I was surprised he took him off.
But to take off your three of your leading attackers in one go seemed a little weird, I must admit.
Yeah, but he left on Kudus, who was the if you look at the front 4 of Bowen, Paquetá, Kudus, Antonio, he left on the one that was playing better.
Yeah, I think Kudus was. I thought he had a really good game. I mean,
I did.
He got Matty Cash on a yellow card early on, and they should have made more of that. I think they should have given it ball to him and told him to go at him. He was unbelievable at times, I thought.
He was on my side of the pitch in the first half, and just watching him, I mean, he's brilliant at attacking, but he does not put a shift in terms of tackling and sort of tracking back. And I was really impressed with his overall game. Now, in the end, he didn't really do an awful lot in the box. I don't think he maybe had 1 or 2 shots that were blocked. I'd have liked to have seen him sort of get into the centre of the pitch a bit more, because I'm not sure he really is a left winger. But that was the position that he started in. But I thought he had a good game too.
Well, yeah, I mean, looking at it, it was, if you look at the setup, Lopetegui, it was very Moyes-esque in a way, the 4-2-3-1, and the fact that he had inverted wingers. So Bowen was.
Well, Sky had it as a 4-1-4-1.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, that's how they had, had it all set up.
Actually, Sky probably nearer to the truth, because definitely in the first half there was a time where we had Antonio sort of doing a semi-press on the keeper, and when you look behind him, we had a line of four, which was Souček, Paquetá, and you had Bowen and Kunduz. I don't know if anyone else noticed that.
But of course, later in the game, when the final two subs came on, it was 3-5-2.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, Moyes would never have done that. Moyes would never have adapted the formation in the way that Lopetegui did. Now, okay, in the end, it didn't have any effect, but I thought that was actually quite an encouraging sign that he was willing to change tactics if it was necessary. And I'm not sure. I mean, I left a bit before the end, so I didn't really see the sort of final few minutes. But whether that worked with Füllkrug and Ings alongside each other, I don't know. What do you guys think?
Ings had a chance with a header that the keeper did, made a meal of it. You could say Martinez, but it was a good save and it was a good half chance. Füllkrug put himself about. Didn't really get
involved, did he?
No.
Yeah.
Didn't really get a sniff.
It was Souček at the death, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think I find it quite telling that in a way it was Souček who was the player in the 98th minute who, as a header cleared off the line, and then as he's falling backwards, manages to put the ball over, which is easy to do. No, that is easy to do when you're falling backwards and the ball bounces
up. It
up.
is quite telling, though, isn't it? That
when it's from 3 yards out, but he was the man in that position. You know,
mate, I love Souček.
So I
think he's been a great player for us.
The hate for Souček and Kufau after the game, it surprises me. I don't know. I don't know why. Sometimes, why should we be surprised with reactions on Twitter, Ian? Should
we? Well, you can't judge an awful lot by Twitter reaction, I don't think. But I mean, Souček did not have a good game, and I'm like you, John. I'm a big fan of his. I think he's been absolutely fantastic for us. But it wouldn't surprise me if he and maybe Coufal did leave before the end of the transfer window. I don't particularly want either of them to, because I think that right back position, and with Wan-Bissaka now joining, I mean that would be really good competition between those two. And I mean, Coufal has never let us down in any shape or form. I can't remember him having any terrible games. He's always committed. He's a lot more skillful than I think he's given credit for. He's good at going forward in a way that Wan-Bissaka, I'm told, is not. But probably Wan-Bissaka is the better defender of the two. So it's going to be very interesting to see how that works out, assuming that Coufal stays. And Souček, look, he's always got a goal in him. Yes, he did miss a couple of chances on Saturday. But you look at the goals that he scored in the past, and many of them have been absolutely crucial to getting extra points. And as I say, I don't think he covered himself with glory in that game, but he wasn't alone in that. And I think it's very good that we are going to have some real competition. When Alvarez is fit, there's going to be some real competition for those defensive midfield places, assuming that Ward-Prowse stays. Although, I mean, it looks as if there's going to be another French.
There's so many people linked to go away,
Spanish.
Isn't there?
Yeah.
Well, Lopetegui has come out and said he wants 2 players for every position. Now, with that in mind, I can see Coufal, and Souček all staying. One thing that probably people don't see and whatever, which I know, I got a friend of mine last night bumped into Souček and Kufal because he sent me photographs of his son, and they were out training they're doing a charity run for a local hospice, and they were training running around the docks.
Really?
So, and they were the only two that were out. So, they were in their West Ham Foundation T-shirts. So, they're not just there, turning up playing with the first team. It seems like they've really bought into the club themselves, and there's a bit of me that would I wouldn't do it because the photos are sent to me in confidence and everything. But I just thought I'd say it because it's easy to criticise players, if they're not the flavour of the month or whatever. And we used to love players like Souček at this club. The George Parises of the world, the Jeff Pikes.
I think Souček spearheaded a whole sea change in our club. When they brought him in, he made a massive difference to that season when it all started to turn around.
Yeah. He came in sort of the COVID year, and then Kufal come behind him.
Yeah, Souček, Kufal, and then Lingard, and then
Europe. Blimey! Oh, heady days.
Lingard,
whatever happened to him?
He's in South Korea now, isn't he?
He is. Yeah. Yeah.
Such a shame.
Is he?
He is. Yeah.
Oh dear.
Right. So, closing thoughts on the game. Was there enough briefly for you to worry about the season or be confident of it'll be okay?
Well, it depends what you mean by okay. I don't think we're going to be in a relegation battle.
No, that's what I mean.
But do I think? I mean, people were writing articles. Oh, West Ham could be in Champions League positions by the end of the season. Well, I'd love to think that was true, but to me, this is a adaptation season. This is not going to be one where we can really believe that we'll get into the top six. It's a possibility because we have. You look at the quality of players that we've signed, and they are going to be better than the ones that in the end probably do go before the end of the transfer window. So, but it all depends whether they can sort of meld as a team. And I think in terms of attackers, I mean, if we get another striker in who's half decent, I do think we've got one of the most entertaining attacking sides in the whole Premier League. But whether they can all bring it together, whether the new defence can get its act together in a way that it didn't last season, because it is a completely new defence apart from Emerson, really, isn't it? So I would hope that we will certainly be in the top half, but I don't think we should get carried away much beyond that.
No, John?
Well, yeah, confident and whatever don't go. Them two words don't go together, does it? As a West Ham fan,
no.
I agree totally with what Ian's saying. It's all a case of, it's all new. We've got to give it all time to gel. A lot of the players, we're talking about Areola, he didn't look at it, and he went on international duty and didn't play a game, and he's not long back. And a lot of these players, it's been such a weird summer, isn't it? We've had the Euros and some in the Olympics, and some of the players are only back at the training ground a week ago. So there's so many players undercooked. We've got new players, new manager, and new systems, and I hope for the best.
I think we're going to learn a lot more from the Palace game than we did from this one.
Yeah, that's a fantastic link then. If we was moving on,
it's as if he's a professional.
Yeah.
This one. Who brought this one on here? I can't have
done
this.
that, I'm going to talk about something completely different. You're at the amateur hour now, Ian. None of that bleeding links. So I'm going to diverge now. So before the game, I don't know if any of you, John's already spoke, he didn't see anyone, but there was, I believe, about 20, 25 people leafleting around the stadium.
Oh, I did see someone. I grabbed a leaflet at someone was as I got off at the DLR.
Right, okay. So someone was down at Pudding Mill Lane.
Pudding Mill Lane, yeah. I grabbed the leaflet off of them there.
That's good. So there was about 20 to 25 people leafleting. I was one of them. I was covering, I think it's Bridge 3, which is Pudding Mill Lane. I stood there in the baking sun for a couple of hours handing out leaflets. Quite a good, reception from majority of the fans. You're going to get fans that it's not for them, and that's fine with me. That's fine by me, as long as they're polite and they go, no thanks, not for me. That's fine. That's we live in a free society, and they're free to walk on by if they want. Some good engagements from some of the Villa fans that come walking along, including one who stopped to talk to me for about 10 minutes, and he explained that he pays £92 a game, roughly, for his season ticket, which I inquired that if I was paying that to watch Villa, I'd want to sit on the bench. But Iain, I mean, you obviously know about the campaign and what's going on. Any thoughts on it, or?
Well, I got a leaflet from someone because I came in. I parked at Westfield, and so walked up through that way, and there were 2 or 3 people leafleting in the bit. I'm going up to it, sort of entrance H, and I mean, I thought, didn't Sean put something in the WhatsApp group that they backtracked on all of this?
Right. So, the original stance from the club was no concessions, match day concessions at all, and also any new season ticket holder in bands 1 to 4, no concession tickets. If you're an existing OAP, then you're okay. If you're gonna once you get to 66, if you're in bands 1 to 4, I don't know about where you are, Ian. I must admit,
I don't think
there was concessions anyway.
There never have been.
No, that's right. So it don't really affect you. It don't affect me because I'm in band 5. So when I get to 66, which ain't that far away, 10, 11 years time, I'd be all right. But if you're in bands 1 to 4, which, let's face it, is the majority of the supporter base is in bands 1 to 4, then no concessions. Now, what the club did, they met with the Independent Supporters Committee, which is a group that looked like at one point the club were refusing to deal with anymore, but then backtracked and met with them, and the club came out and announced that there will be concession tickets on match day tickets from the Chelsea game onwards. Now, when you look at it, on the face of it, you could say, okay, that's not a climb down. That's that's a minuscule. That is the smallest part of what the argument is about. The big part is the season ticket holders in bands 1 to 4, because that's where the majority that will be affected are. And bearing in mind that clubs always will claim that season ticket holders are the lifeblood of the support base, then to treat them that way seems pretty poor.
How do our season ticket prices in those bands compare to Chelsea, Arsenal, Tottenham?
Ah, right, yeah. Now you've fallen into this trap. Or this
I'm not falling into that.
I know you generally don't know the answer, but because this is what the club love to do. So what they do is they'll go, right, so let's look at the other London clubs. So let's take Chelsea, let's take Arsenal and Tottenham, 2 that I do know about. So if you look at your season ticket, the cost of your season ticket, Ian, I'll leave it up to you if you want to tell people. But I know what it is in 1966.
Well, I think it's 1,400, right? Isn't it? Something like that.
That is roughly the cost of the cheapest season ticket at Arsenal for an adult.
Yeah.
Now, the thing about Arsenal is they do a lot of concessions, and they have kept concessions under 14, under 18, under 21. And they have a full set of match day concessions and season ticket concessions as well as the OAP. But you could, I think, Arsenal's dearest season ticket, non-corporate, is knocking £3,000. So Tottenham. Now, I know my neighbour across the road, his season ticket is about £1,000. Now, his seat is towards the back above, behind the goal, in Tottenham Stadium, whatever, I don't know what they call it now, the Tottenham Stadium, White Hart Lane, New Hart Lane. So, you know, his equivalent seat would be above the scoreboard at the London Stadium. Now, that seat in the London Stadium is above the, I think is a band 5, so that's about £400 for the season in the London Stadium. So when you look at it like
full
that, full price, yeah, my seat's £380, full price. Now here comes where my argument bit, where I go. The reason why for that is that when we moved, there was no band 5 at Upton Park, there was no band 6 at Upton Park. In fact, my seat wouldn't even be in Upton Park. My seat would be on Green Street. In fact, it would be the other side of Green Street. And that is why the tickets in those bands were so low. Now, if you look at the bands, but the club are targeting bands 1 to 4. This is where it gets a bit funny. To my left, not 6 seats away, is band 4. Now, their season tickets, which started at £500, I believe are now £680. So the prices on bands 1 to 4 have gone up vastly compared to band 5 started at £250, is now £380 or £275.
So that's £36 a match.
What, my seat?
Well,
my seat's actually £20 a match, band 5. It's £380.
Yeah, but the one 6
yeah,
along from you.
£36. Now, just to then throw another little spin on it, at Upton Park in the last season, I had an adult and a young adult, 2 books, and that cost me £1,200 for the 2. The 2 adults that I've bought for this season, it's cost me £760. So some people that when I say this to and I speak to then question what you're protesting about. And what I'm protesting about is because just because other clubs behave that way and other clubs charge those prices doesn't mean, 1, we have to follow, and 2, I would argue those clubs play in better football stadiums. We don't even play in a football stadium, in my opinion. We play in an athletic stadium that hosts football. Hence why our tickets are cheaper. There's so many different spins on it. It's not just as cut and dried as that. But what it comes down to as well is that as a West Ham fan, we want to compete with the Arsenals, the Chelseas and the Tottenhams, don't we?
Well, if we do, then we have to increase our prices.
Right.
Don't we?
Well,
isn't that the logic?
Well, and this is the one thing that I've always, in a way, been worried about, is that to actually really compete, and this is why I think why the club are going down the road and doing what they're doing, is because they've exhausted every other revenue stream they can. They've moved us out of Upton Park into there because it had 60,000 seats. Well, Tottenham's got 60,000 seats. So's Arsenal. Chelsea haven't, but their prices are twice as dear as us. We were bored, you know. We in the last few years we've had 3 top 10 finishes in 4 seasons, and we've had a European run, and we've won a trophy, and you know the brand has been expanded. I'm sure Sean would say, but we're still not challenging or knocking on that door, are we? To challenge those.
Well, we are more than we were.
Yes.
You see, this is where I know you're going to disagree with this, but when they talked about the next level, I think we have moved up a level. We're not a side now that I think is in danger of relegation. We are a side that is looking for some sort of top 10 finish. It may be 9th, it may be 7th, it could be 5th. Who knows? Yes, we haven't got in the Champions League, which was the aim, I think, within 5 years. But I mean, I think anyone in 2016, given what happened then, if someone said to them, well, in 2023 you're going to win a European trophy, I think most people would have thought that was rather good progress compared to where we were in 2016. So I think a lot of progress has been made. Now, a lot of things could have been done differently. That is absolutely true. But to me, what they've done is, a lot of people said we'd only ever fill sort of the London Stadium in maybe a third of the games. Well, that hasn't been true. They sold, what was it, 52,000 season tickets each year?
It's less now.
That's
the club
gone down a little bit.
The club have actually chosen to reduce the season ticket.
And I think if they had their way, they'd like to reduce the season tickets a lot more. Because we're in London, because we're in the Olympic Park, there are a lot of people who would love to attend Premier League games and be willing to pay 120 quid to do so. So if they wanted to maximise their income, that's the direction that they would go in. Now, they are going in that direction a little bit, but not too much. And don't forget, isn't the capacity going to be increased to 66,000 sometime this season?
Not at the moment, no. Not at the moment.
I thought they got planning permission to do that.
Well, they need to put in. They need to.
They need to spend money to achieve that, don't they?
Yeah. Basically, what it needs is more toilets and more catering facilities. I think it's nonsense for a start that we've got 4,000 seats that can't be sold. So there's that. Without turning it into historical, I just want a minute for rebuttal, Ian.
Go on. You're the host.
Yeah. So 2016, if we look back, would we won a European competition? Would we be happy? Of course we would, but we won a competition that hadn't been invented in 2016, and we also won a European competition that we would have qualified for if it had been invented while we were still at Upton Park.
That is true.
So
yeah, you're right.
So therefore, I would argue that that can be nullified. Now, as proposed to next level, a great phrase used by the club, by Brady, because they never quantified where the starting point was and what the next level was.
Well,
so,
Gold suggested Champions League, didn't he?
Yes.
I think Ian said that in 5 years or whatever.
Yeah, so if you look at it, the way I perceive next level is to achieve something we hadn't achieved at Upton Park. Now,
we did. We were in Europe 3 seasons in a row.
Right? No. I'll give you that.
That never happened before.
No, but one of them was qualifying for a tournament that we would have qualified for if we'd have been at Upton Park, and the third year was by winning that tournament that we would have qualified. Winning at Upton Park.
Yeah, but we still had to win it.
So so it's quite possible that if that tournament had been invented in 2015 or 2014, and we'd finished 7th and we'd qualified for it, we could have won it, because we have actually finished 7th.
Coulda, woulda, shoulda.
At Upton Park, we'd finished 5th before. So actually, have we achieved anything in this stadium currently that we hadn't achieved at Upton Park?
Or couldn't have achieved.
Have achieved. Yeah. And my answer to that is no.
Well, we'll never know, will we?
No, we won't.
I mean, the fact is, I think if you look at the squad of players that we've had, certainly for the last 3 or 4 years, that in overall quality and in theory, in entertainment value, and I say in theory because obviously Moyes was in charge, but in theory, in entertainment value, I think it's probably unsurpassed going back many, many years. Possibly you could argue the squad that we had around the turn of the century could have competed with it, but it got relegated. So I think we have made a lot of progress since 2016. And I hear what you say about the stadium. I know you've never liked it. You didn't want to go there. I miss Upton Park. I genuinely do, because I absolutely loved going there. But I don't have this antipathy to this stadium that you do, partly because when we play well, it absolutely rocks. When we don't play well, it's terrible.
Yeah.
But then so was Upton Park when we played.
No.
terribly as well.
I will agree with that. Anything you want to throw in, John,
Uh,
to this bit?
no, not really. I mean, you've got the two opposing sides. I lean with you, Nigel. You know, I know that's how I am historically.
I mean, you've walked away and come back.
Yeah, and I'm just yeah.
You glad you come back?
I mean, I walked out of there on Saturday. We had the 5:30 kickoff. Yeah, I messaged you on the group, didn't I? So I'm after the game. I see the containers and whatever. I walked to that bar. It was shut.
Oh.
I'm like, honestly, it's I was there's so much about it
that I'm with you on that. I think the whole pre-match experience. I mean, I would never hang around after the match. I just want to get home. But the whole pre-match experience, it's so different to Upton Park, and we all had our little rituals.
Oh yeah, we had our little pubs.
I always went to Ken's Cafe. Absolutely loved it doing that.
Well, not only is Ken's Cafe shut down, Ian, the burger bar that replaced Ken's Cafe, that's also shut down because I drove past it the other day. I thought, well, that didn't last long, did it?
And I mean, I really do miss all of that, and sort of buying your Overland and Sea from Gary Firmage, you're having a little chat with him, and you don't get any of that in the London Stadium, and it's a very sort of American experience on the outside of it.
I always said that it's like they've moved us to Disneyland. That's always been my saying. It's all like sparkly Disneyland.
I don't enjoy that side of it. I'm not sure what else they could have done, to be honest. But the actual inside the stadium, when you walk up, you get to the top of the steps. And I'm Upton Park, whenever I took someone there for the first time, I always said to them, you're about to have a religious experience when you see the pitch, when you get to the top of the steps. And I still feel like that, actually, in the London Stadium, because to
you're that high up in the gods, Ian.
To somebody who comes there for the first time, they actually think it's really impressive. I mean, neutrals, people who aren't necessarily even sort of avid football fans, they usually just say something like "wow" when they get to the top of the steps.
What did your friend who you took on Saturday think of the stadium?
Well, I took Jackie Smith.
Has she been there before? She's been there before, though.
Yeah, she's a Villa fan, so she always comes with me and she'd come up all the way from Malvern just to come to this, and then went back straight afterwards, obviously in a good mood. And we've seen West Ham win one, draw one, and now lose one.
That's Villa's first win in the stadium.
Is it?
Yeah, Villa's first win at London Stadium.
I think she quite likes it. I mean, it's obviously very different to Villa Park, but then I've only ever been to Villa Park once, and I hated the place.
Oh wow!
I went on that. I can't remember if we won or not, but John Moncur scored a volley from about 20 yards. And I was in with the Villa fans, and because it was so unexpected, I just leapt out of my seat. Shit, I shouldn't have done that.
There goes your experience. That's where it falls down.
They're actually quite friendly.
No, Villa Park, blimey, for me, I think. I
enjoyed Villa Park.
Yeah, I love Selhurst for the fact that it's such a dump. Perhaps it's more about me than anything. I literally do really enjoy going to Selhurst Park, and Villa Park is up there with it as well.
You know, going back to the London Stadium on Saturday, you know, there's all this talk about the price of beer, isn't there, and all the what's going on in there. And when I went in around sort of 10 to 5, 5 to 5, something like that, and I was looking for you and you whatever, and got in there, and I thought, well, let's break a rule and go and have a beer. And I looked at, there's about 4 different places in the area where I am to get a beer, and I looked at it and it was like 5:05, and I thought, there's nowhere here I can join a queue anywhere and get a beer before kick-off. And you think, well, and then there's people walking around with these little container things with Pepsis and popcorn and crisps, and you think, well, where are these people? You know, they complain they don't make any money out of that. Why aren't they out there with these people selling bottles of beer and whatever? You know, it just all seems so badly organised and like very Americanised. Like Ian said, it's just doesn't feel. there's no guarantee I could get in there half hour at Upton Park and got a beer. I know that, but at least I knew that.
Just one other thing that I've suddenly remembered. I've always had a problem with getting into the ground using these things on your tickets on your iPhone, and I found out why that match, because again it wouldn't work. And what I always do is I always print the tickets off before I leave, just in case it doesn't work.
That stops your ticket from working.
Well, I didn't know that.
Oh, right, yeah. Oh, you should have asked me. I could have told you that.
Which I suppose there is a certain logic to it, but on the other hand, it was bloody, because every single match that happened last season.
So you thought, I have to print my ticket off because every time I go to use it,
the Manchester City
it doesn't
match,
work.
So I'm not going to print the ticket off, so it better bloody work for
Right,
that.
so there's another way of doing it, Ian, is that you could email the ticket for yourself, and then what you can do is you can have it, and you can use just the barcode.
Yeah, well, that's what I did.
Yeah, but instead of printing it off, you just email the ticket to you, and then instead of printing it off for email, you save it to your phone, or you can WhatsApp it to yourself, or open it up on the email.
That would still negate the original.
Yes, but it works
ticket in
better.
the wallet, wouldn't it?
Works better. You don't have to print it off.
Yeah, that's true.
It works better.
Anyway, I got in.
But no, that's what. I mean, those of us that officially haven't got a smartphone, but I still not received my card. So I had one of them things where you're sitting there Saturday morning, and you think, shit, they sent me an email saying they're going to send me a new card out, and then I check the post. I don't look at the post in my house, and she says she's not seen anything.
Well, you've got to check the post because you obviously don't use email because you ain't got a smartphone.
Well, no, I use it on my laptop, John. Email.
Oh, do you? Have you got a laptop? Can't you take that with you?
Well, take me laptop.
Is it steam powered, your laptop?
No.
You must have a smartphone because you do WhatsApp.
But I could do WhatsApp off my laptop. Ian.
Yeah, so do I. But you don't, do you? You do it on a smartphone.
But anyway, officially,
Come on, Ian. We don't tell them how sausages are made.
Officially, I haven't got a smartphone, so I have
no.
a plastic card.
I'd much prefer that.
Well, yeah, you have to.
You
I had
had
to
to do
fill
it
out
before.
a form this year.
They're getting rid of them next year, aren't they? Completely.
Well, let's see, innit? Let's see. You know
That's
me.
Nigel's next
I
fight.
love to fight a fight. I'll fight that one.
Listen,
the day
I've
I
got to go in about 10 minutes.
Yeah,
Should we talk about transfers?
We can talk about transfers. Do you know any?
Well, I must admit I've become an addict of refreshing news now to see what ludicrous rumours are going around. And do you ever look at the Hammers News articles? I mean, they're just so shit. Because they have this sort of headline.
You haven't sold it to me, so I won't.
No, well, they have this headline to sort of make you read it. And then they spend about sort of 20 lines before they actually get to what they think is the story, and it's just so frustrating. But sometimes they are a bit on the money.
Well, look, I'll tell you how bad they are, Ian. Just save you wasting your time. Recently, in the last 2 weeks ago, they wrote a transfer story where Nigel Khan revealed that he'd spoken to a club source and about this player was joining the club.
Is that Sean?
And it was a YouTuber that happened to be Indian.
Right.
Who's not called Nigel, and he's not called Khan. Yeah, so he's a West Ham YouTuber, Indian, and they obviously looked at it, didn't look at his name, and just thought, oh, that must be that Nigel Khan.
Oh.
So they're being a bit racist.
Well,
that's what you're saying.
That's how good they are. Yeah. It was one of them where you think, my Twitter's a bit busy today, and it then started pinging up. Actually, friends of mine had seen the story, clicked on the link, looked at it, and pissed themselves laughing, and thought it'd be funny to WhatsApp me photoshops of it and everything. So that's that Hammers News for you, Ian. Don't read it. You can read West Ham Till I Die if you want, Ian, because I'm sure there's some good content on there.
We don't tend to do transfer news, but
look.
I mean, let's look at some of the players that might be going. Obviously, they're desperate to get rid of Zuma. he didn't feature in the matchday squad at all.
No.
I think they're going to have a bit of difficulty with that.
Reports of new agents for him and a Gerd, isn't there? That out there in Saudi Arabia touting them out.
James Ward-Prowse, I think, is possibly on his way. He just hasn't quite done it, has he?
Well,
He hasn't scored that goal.
Yeah.
My concern, Mike, did anyone see that Harry Redknapp podcast where he said that he knew someone close to Caduce and he'd be gone by the end of the summer?
Oh, right. No, I didn't. I don't watch Rivals.
Yeah, there was a Harry Redknapp on some podcast saying
especially Rivals I've had a row with.
was that? I don't even know what it was. I don't know what group it was or
I've ran
whatever.
with them all.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean. But I was going to say, which one are you not listening to then? But yeah, that to me would be horrible if Caduce goes.
Yeah.
I'm just looking at our WhatsApp.
Been no speculation about that, though, has there?
No. So there's nothing really from.
I mean, Ings and Cornet, I suppose, are the other two that ought to be got rid of. But who's going to take Ings when he's on, what is it, 130 grand a week or something like that? That's just not possible. And if he wants to dig his heels in, which he clearly does.
Well, do you know, if he wants to play two up top, and he wants two for each position, that would mean four strikers. Which the last time we had four strikers was under Pellegrini.
And what do you think the truth is about Tammy Abrahams? Because Sean keeps saying there is no truth in it whatsoever, and yet that is all of every single site seems to be going on about that.
The one thing I do know is that anything can happen in football. And what people say
and Sean doesn't take that into account when he repeats the stuff.
Yeah. And what people say to him publicly or not publicly, officially, unofficially, doesn't mean that they're doing exactly the opposite behind his back.
True. Yeah, he doesn't. He repeats stuff without understanding that people might have an agenda.
Messenger crap.
Yeah.
I'm afraid sometimes they will tell him what they want him to know.
But
right.
Given his injury, do you think
Sean's?
he was... No, he's had a brain injury. I'm talking about Tammy Abrahams, who had a cruciate ligament. And we all know that often with players who have that, they're never quite the same. And he only played, I think, 12 matches last season, scored one goal. Now, you'd have to say if you can get it for 20 million, you'd probably take the risk. But other sites are quoting 35 million, which I think is probably a bit top-heavy for him.
Well, with stats like that, he's made for us, Ian, isn't he? Injured, played 12 games, scored one goal. Blimey. Do you know, sometimes you can buy the name and not look at what he's done.
Yeah.
So, for me, one of the first things I said was we should have paid that bloody 5 million and bought him for 40 million and not asked about, because I'm still not sure about the Fulkrug deal being great, to be honest. And the fact that we went from Durant to Fulkrug, and you got a 20-year-old, 21-year-old who come on and done that, showed us, what we could have had if we.
A totally different kind of player.
Yeah,
too.
and totally, and if we'd have just coughed up the 5 million, instead of.
The only thing I don't mind about that so much is that we've got a mixture. And we've got some players for now.
Yeah.
And a Fulkrug to me is a player for now.
Yeah.
As opposed to
he ain't got tomorrow, really, is he?
No, exactly. So he needs to start him and get him out there.
But it shows the strength of the squad, though, that the Brazilian guy Guillaume and Aguerd, they didn't even make the matchday squad because there were too many players. And given that Alvarez was injured as well.
Irvine did.
Well, everyone seems to think he's a really great player. I mean, I haven't seen enough of him to make a judgment, but apparently, who was it? Was it Sean saying? Somebody's saying that Lopetegui really, really rates him.
Well, we'll see. Until I see him, it's hard to judge. I've
not seen him. You've not seen him at all?
Seen a goal that he scored. Actually, looked decent. I think it was against Ferencvaros in a 2-2 draw. But apart from that. Or I don't know, it might have been against Wolves, but I can't keep up. Right, so moving on then, we're going to draw it to a close. We've got Crystal Palace coming up the Stripey Nigels, as some people would love to call them, not me. How do we see this one going?
Historically, not great.
No.
Well, historically not great. To be honest, we have decent games with them, don't we? We sort of always get, we've had some good away days there, in not too far long ago.
Last time I went there, we went 2-0 up after 20 minutes. I think Antonio scored possibly both of them. And I was sitting right in where the ultras are with, I think I've told this story before, with Greg Clark, former trade minister. And he's got a season ticket there with his 10-year-old son. And it was, shall we say, quite an interesting atmosphere. And then I kept getting recognised. And I was actually thinking, oh, my God, this has been a really bad bit of the ground to sit in. But then Palace got 2 goals and it was a draw. So I am hopeful that we will do something, either get a draw or win, hopefully a win. But I think there'll be several changes to the team.
Yeah, I agree. We need to change the old starting lineup a bit. But yeah, always an exciting game there. So I look forward to it.
Yeah, it's a tough one because I did say, I think last week, the week before, I could see us being in the bottom 3 after 4 or 5 games. And
cheer up, Nige.
yeah, it's not that I just thought it would be hard to gel, and I think some of the teams we've got to play. Palace, this is the game where realistically, I think we've got to get. Well, obviously, we've got Fulham away as well. They're the games we've got to pick up at least like a point up.
Well, they've had a real uplift, haven't they, with their new manager when he came in whatever stage last season. I was surprised they got beat first game.
Yeah. So I mean, just to remind people, I don't really want to. Last year they beat us 5-2. Last year it was in April. They beat us 3-1 in a friendly at Selhurst, and last year they beat us 4-3 at Selhurst. So it's the last few times. The last time we beat Palace, I'm just looking.
They lost to Lisi.
Was 2022. We beat them 3-2 at their place. I'd take your black balloons if you're going, people. Look out for the black balloon protest.
Tennis balls, Nige.
Well, we'll start with the black balloons, and then we'll see what else goes up. And I'll go for a draw. I was fearful at first, but then having seen Palace at the weekend, I think maybe they're a bit ring rusty as well. So I'm going to go for the draw.
I'm going for 2. Yeah, 2-1 win.
Right,
yeah, I'm with you.
There you go. All right, we'll look back next week, and we'll see where we are. We may even invite you back next week, Iain.
I shall be available. In fact, I'm available till. I'm not
September
going back
the
to
5th.
work till. Well, no. Yeah, no. September I can do any week up to probably. I might go back to work on the 16th of September, I think. So.
Okay. All right. All right. Well, thanks for joining us tonight, E.
No, enjoyed it. Thank you.
And
yeah, cheers, Ian.
John, as ever.
Thank you.
And thank you to the listeners. I don't know if Silly Nuts is back next week. And after the conversation we had yesterday, maybe he don't want to talk to me anyway. So I'll leave you with that, and we'll see who turns up next week. But thanks for listening. Cheerio now.
Bobby Moore, more than just a podcast. Bobby Moore, more than just